Hey guys, అందరికీ నమస్కారం. వెల్కమ్ బ్యాక్ టు మై ఛానల్ AmericaloTeluguAbbayi. సో ఇవాళ నాతో ఒక స్పెషల్ గెస్ట్ ఉన్నారనమాట, UMKC రిప్రజెంటేటివ్. సో ఆవిరికి తెలుగు రాదు కాబట్టి we are going to continue this interview in English. And first of all, thank you so much, Julie, for inviting me here for a wonderful church service. And also thanks for making time in your busy schedule of all the incoming students as well as all the classes and stuff. I'm really glad that I'm here. So do you want to give our audience an introduction about yourself?
Okay, I am the coordinator of international admissions at UMKC. I've been working at UMKC for 5.5 years advising international students applying to our School of Computing and Engineering.
Guys, if you don't know, Julie Meyer, she's here. She's really great. So she helped us getting from VIT into UMKC with other folks in UMKC, SCE as well as ISAO. So basically, right from our application when we started in VIT, she was our point of contact for everything, and then how we got admission and stuff. She was really, really helpful, and then she took care of us a lot. And then even after coming into school, she took care of us a lot regarding all the aspects like courses or like how the international admission things go on, I-20s and stuff. I'm really grateful. We met and then we became really good friends. We lost touch for like an year or two, but I'm glad that we came back again. Thank you so much for Julie for everything you've done. You've been really great. Yeah, do you want to say something?
I definitely want to say it's absolutely my pleasure, and I'm so glad you got back in touch again. So happy to see you, and definitely am very happy to hear how well things have been going for you.
Right, sounds good. All right, and then you just want to say something like, I know that you don't understand the language that the channel is going on, but I also know that you understood some part of at least one or two of my videos. So what do you think about my channel in general?
I'm excited about it. I'm excited to see that you had a good experience, and I work really hard to bring students here, and then after you arrive at UMKC, I am not doing as much as I did before you got here, and so to hear how you're doing after you graduated, a good career, and I'm just really happy to see how well you're doing, and also how much work you're taking to help future students.
Sure.
And to learn about us and to maybe solve some of those difficulties before they get here.
Yeah, that's the intention of this interview, and hopefully we do something about it. All right, I think let's get started with very general questions regarding UMKC and Kansas City. So the first question that I got is like, why UMKC? Like, according to you, why should I come to UMKC, or why should I come to Kansas City? Like, yeah.
So this is a question I get a lot. There are a lot of good reasons to choose UMKC. Especially if you're in a technology field, Kansas City is one of the major technology hubs in the U.S. So getting internships and jobs is not very difficult here in this area. Being in the middle of the U.S., our cost of living is a little bit lower, and we have great programs, but especially computer science has some specific courses that are available that not all computer science majors across the country have. And this year we're even adding actually a master's degree in data science. So previously data science is an emphasis within our computer science, but we've had so much interest that we're adding a new master's degree. So you could get masters of computer science or masters of data science. And so that's exciting new thing that we are hopefully going to have ready for maybe in time for our fall students to switch over to that, but definitely, hopefully for spring. I think that we just have a long history of our Indian students especially having a good experience here.
Right.
All kinds of things, just the community, the connections, the work opportunities. We have a long history, and it's very positive of the students from the academic side, the personal, social side, and also being able to get jobs and the career later. So there are a lot of good reasons, and of course we offer a scholarship, so that's always a benefit. The scholarship has changed a little bit. It used to be a little bit more competitive as far as we would have a half DISA and a full DISA, and it depended on your academic background, how strong that was, and we've changed that into basically a welcome scholarship.
That's really cool.
Thank you for choosing UMKC.
Oh, that's really
cool. We only have one level now. It's the full DISA. The half DISA doesn't exist anymore. And basically, if you're admitted for the School of Computing and Engineering, you get this scholarship. So it's some students feel a little discouraged that they don't get recognition for their academic strength. But we're just so pleased that any student is choosing us, and we want to really welcome students. And UMKC is also reorganizing.
Right.
So starting next year, more majors will be added into the School of Computing and Engineering, and it will change its name. And so majors like biology, chemistry, physics, math, some of those science and math majors will be added in. And so even those majors will have the same scholarship opportunity as well. So we're excited about that.
That's really awesome to hear. I mean, like I knew a few friends who were struggling with like half DISA, and then they were like, okay, I just got half. But glad that from the second semester they were able to pull up and then pull up to the full DISA. Right. But it's exciting to hear that the UMKC is offering just one level of scholarship, full DISA for most of the candidates who are coming from India, especially SCE. So that's really cool. And then I just want to clarify one thing, right? When we say School of Computing and Engineering, people just confuse like there's only computing or computer science, but it's not the case. There are like several departments in it. So just if you want to check like what all departments exist in SCE, I'll probably link URL in the description here, so you can go to SCE and then see what other branches are available. And thank you so much. We'll come back to the scholarships. And you have covered most of the stuff. Like I had questions like why Kansas City, and then I also had a question of like what are the job opportunities around. And then while you're saying like most of the students find job here, I can vouch for my personal experience. I got my first ever job in my life, which was an on-campus job at UMKC. And also I got my first internship here. I got my first full-time job here. So people have this misconception like Kansas City is not that great place for jobs. There are like a lot of other suburban metros. But, I got my jobs in Kansas City, and two of my other friends, they also got their first jobs in Kansas City. So we're really glad, and then whatever she said, I am kind of like a living example of that. So
I just want to make a comment about on-campus work, because you have to be a student in F1 status for a school year, so a fall and a spring semester before you can work off campus. But on campus, we have new students who have arrived this semester. Classes haven't even started yet, and they already have jobs secured.
Yes.
It could be anything. We have an Indian student who has been hired as a lifeguard at our swimming pool.
Wow, that's really
so it could be something like that that might not be associated with your major. We have a student that interviewed yesterday for a job in our
office.
No, not in our office, but in the computer labs. So he's waiting to hear back from that. And there's always the jobs in the cafeteria and the general jobs in the gym and the library and the student union. So we have students all over campus.
Right.
So I'm sure you're going to ask me, because I get this all the time, what about graduate assistantships? Have you gotten this question? Because graduate assistantships is one of the big questions I get. So in the application process for School of Computing and Engineering, and like you said, not only computer science and now data science, we also have mechanical engineering, civil engineering, and electrical engineering. For the School of Computing and Engineering in particular, they will never guarantee a graduate assistantship to a master's degree student before you get here. So you get here and you start talking to your professors, your academic advisor during your first semester to express interest. You build a connection. If the professor has never interacted with you, it's going to be harder. If you're a strong student as far as putting in the effort, you're paying attention, you're an active student, that gives you a better reputation, and then the professors are more confident that they know who you are and they can choose you. If you never interact with them, they don't know enough about you to know whether they should choose you either for a teaching assistantship or a research assistantship. So at the master's level, you won't get that secured before you get here. Generally, the earliest you'll get something is your second semester, but we have one or two really excellent students that get that assistantship started in their first semester.
That's really nice, So yeah, as I always say, like I also say this in my channel in several videos, like if you're interested in TA, GA or research assistant, these roles are highly dependent on like how you contact your professors, and then what is your relationship with them academically, and also like it also depends, according to my opinion, it also depends on how fast or early you move, because there are going to be tens or hundreds of students who are going to reach out to the same professor. But if a professor feels everyone is the same, they are going to go with the person who is going to go early, right? So according to my experience, that was also one of the good tips. Thank you so much for covering all the on-campus job stuff and covering the TAGA and RA out of the way. And yeah, in general, I just wanted to like, before moving forward to the next topic, I just want you to like, any tips or suggestions on like how to approach like for on-campus jobs before you're coming, I mean, after your admission, once you decided that you're going into UMKC, how can you approach people for on-campus jobs?
On-campus jobs, before you get here, it's a little bit hard to get information because the system, you log in with your username, and nobody can really get real information about a job until you arrive here and you enroll, and we know you're actually coming, because what if we hire you but you end up going to another university or something like that. So you can look at our careers website. Our career services helps both with on-campus work and with off-campus work later when you're eligible for it.
Right.
And so it's the same department, and you can look at their webpage and you can contact them, but most of the specific job information for job postings won't be available until you enroll. And that you could start before classes start, or you could get hired before classes start, but you'll need to be here and enrolled, and we need to know that you're here.
Right.
So you look on the careers website. There's a software called Handshake.
Yeah. Handshake.
And that is where the official place where you find all of the job postings. But in addition to searching on Handshake, ask around, ask your friends, ask anybody you talk to if they've heard of any campus jobs. You might get a little bit lucky and somebody's like, I'm going to quit next week, but I can recommend you. That takes a lot of luck to get that. So definitely Handshake is the first step.
Yeah.
But at the same time, be asking everywhere you go. Even if you go to the library and you don't know anyone there, you can go to the information desk and ask if there's any positions available.
Right.
People ask about my office all the time, ISAO, and we do hire now and then. What I have always told people about ISAO is, even if we're not hiring now, put your application in now.
Yeah.
So ISAO is, we will post on Handshake, but we also collect applications when we're not hiring, so that next time we're hiring, we already have a stack. Right. And so a lot of students, I tell them this, and they're like, well, you weren't hiring, I'm not going to apply. And next time we apply, we already have a stack. And if yours
it's
isn't,
like loop.
Yes. So, and another thing I really want to say that's related to a lot of things, for example, things like employment and also scholarships. You get so much email when you're a student at UMKC.
Right, yes.
And some of it is more important and some is less important. And I really want students, from the moment they are admitted, we'll start getting a few emails even before you arrive. But keep your UMKC email box clean. Delete the stuff you don't need, because if you get an email about a job opportunity, an assistantship, or a scholarship, if you've got 300 unread emails, you could have this opportunity coming in and you don't even see it.
Yes.
And you'll wonder why there are no opportunities, but it's just because you didn't keep up on your email. If you start from day one and keep that cleared out every couple of days, then when something important comes in, and of course, everyone who sends an email will say it's important, but something that you consider important comes in, like an opportunity for an assistantship, or an opportunity for a scholarship. Your email is cleaned out and you can actually see that that thing came in. Assistantships are not just with the school you're studying with. The School of Graduate Studies sends an email every week. And it usually includes a couple of assistantships that are out there. It could be like in the Women's Center. It could be with the Writing Studio. It could be with different offices around campus. And they promote these on the School of Graduate Studies email every
list.
week.
Okay.
So that's something you get the email every week from the same department and you start to feel it's not important, but if you actually read it, there are assistantships in there.
Right.
So I think that it's a really good idea to keep up on your email so you find those opportunities.
Yeah. Sounds good. Thank you so much for covering all on-campus opportunities and stuff. Let's quickly, so we have talked a little bit about scholarships before. Let's quickly talk about scholarships a little more. So so first of all, let's talk about DISA. So DISA is, I believe, Dean's International Students Award, right?
Dean's International Scholars Award.
Yeah, Dean's International Scholars Award. I've heard that when we apply for a program, either bachelor's or master's in School of Computing and Engineering, we are automatically enrolled for the DISA application.
Yes.
Is that correct? Or like, what do you want to say more about DISA?
So it is correct. When you apply, all of our admission scholarships are automatically considered. You don't have to ask for them.
Right.
So then if you're admitted, we offer you the best scholarship available. So for the School of Computing and Engineering, as long as you are self-paid or your family's paying and you're not on a government scholarship, you do automatically qualify at the time of admission. And for bachelor students, it's $8,500 for a school year. So $4,250 for the first semester. And then at the master's level, it's $8,000. So $4,000 for your first semester, $4,000 for your second semester. That's guaranteed for your first year.
Right.
If you maintain at least a 3.0 GPA, it automatically continues.
Yes.
So if you drop below 3.0, you drop out of that DISA scholarship. So you would have another semester to bring it back to 3.0. And at that point, it doesn't automatically come back. You petition to get it back. But as long as you're keeping that 3.0, and for master students, you need to be over 3.0 because it's graduate studies anyway. So if you're not getting your DISA, you might not be graduating.
Right.
So that DISA is automatic. So I worked with the School of Computing and Engineering for more than 5 years and was just very recently promoted to be the coordinator of all international admissions. So I'm very familiar with the School of Computing and Engineering. I know some things about the other schools as well. So the College of Arts and Science also has the same situation where you're automatically considered. It's not the same exact qualifications, but it's still the $8,000 for the graduate students. I believe they're also $8,000 for the bachelor students. Some of this information next year, 2022, UMKC is reorganizing. So the scholarship information is changing. So if you're thinking about applying soon or applying next year, email us to ask us what the current information is as the university reorganizes to make sure you've got the most accurate and current information for that major. School of Computing and Engineering is pretty easy. It's going to stay at that level. And then our School of Business also has a very good scholarship. It's called the CNR, so non-resident, CNR, Chancellor's Non-Resident Award. Okay, so we call it the CNR, and actually in the School of Business that waives out-of-state fees.
Nice. Okay.
So the DISA is a flat rate. It's just $4,000 as long as you are full-time enrolled, which is 9 credit hours for a master's student. The CNR, you have to be an F1 or a J1 student. So and you have to. So that means you're studying in person, and you have to be a full-time student. And you will get your out-of-state fees, the non-resident fees waived. So
it's a great addition, actually. Almost half of the whole fee with non-residents is stashed.
So so with the CNR, it's a bigger scholarship, but it's not offered to as many people. So the DISA, for example, our computer science master's degree and electrical engineering master's degree, even before COVID hit, was already fully online. So you could take a semester or year or the full degree at home, but you still qualify for the DISA scholarship. If you are a visiting student, you still qualify in the School of Computing and Engineering. However, in the School of Business, the Block School of Management, that scholarship, you have to be an F1 or J1 student, which means you're here in person. You can't get it if you're on an H visa. You can't get it if you're studying at home. So there are differences with each academic unit and how they offer their scholarships.
Okay. And I also, since you are like coordinator for all admissions right now, I also get a lot of questions about pharmacy, pharmaceutical students. So is there any opportunities there? And then
Unfortunately, at this time, pharmacy is not offering scholarships.
Okay.
So and also since I'm newly promoted, I don't know every detail, but I'll tell you what I know. So first of all, there are a lot of majors that in the U.S. are not considered bachelor's level or might not even be master's level.
Right.
So for our pharmacy program, it's actually a doctoral level. It's a doctorate of pharmacy. It's not a PhD. And we call it PharmD.
PharmD. Yeah, the same thing they call it in
So the
India.
D is doctorate. We don't offer it at the lower level. So then at the doctorate level, you're looking at a potential assistantship, which is going to be something that you have to work hard for. A lot of times students ask me at the doctoral level, whether it's PharmD, PhD, any of those other doctoral programs,
Right.
you could get an assistantship before you arrive.
Okay.
Master's degree for School of Computing and Engineering, you won't, but for the doctoral level, it's possible in any major. That takes a lot of work to communicate. And also people ask me, what's the deadline to apply? The deadline to apply is before everybody else has filled up the assistantships, right? So if a professor is able to hire 3 students and 3 students applied before you, even if you're more qualified, if there are no assistantships left, so there's not apply for an
Deadline.
assistantship by January 1st. It just depends on who's faster than you. So as early as possible for the doctoral levels. So we don't have scholarships at the PharmD level.
Okay.
It's unfortunate, but that's how it stands right now.
Okay. All right. So since we crossed all like general scholarships and DISA and other information, CNR and other information, many people ask me this because back in India, some people are like from really poor background, but they are academically so strong, right? So they always ask me about like what are like full funding opportunities if you have any at all at UMKC, or like how to secure a full funding in general. Are there any affiliated organizations to UMKC who can actually provide some scholarship for those students who are academically so strong?
Okay. So within UMKC, at the bachelor's and master's level, we don't have any full funding for anybody.
Okay.
The best you can do is in some programs waiving out-of-state fees, and that still leaves a good amount of tuition left.
Yes.
At the doctoral level, the assistantship some assistantships are full funding, and with a stipend on top. Getting an assistantship doesn't mean the same thing. There are, half assistantships or quarter assistantships. So just an assistantship itself doesn't tell you how much funding it is.
Yes.
You could get full funding. One thing to understand is if you get an assistantship that is even full funding, that is barely survival rate. You are going to have to be extremely careful with your money. Every penny you will have to be careful. You will not feel free and easy to just go eat whatever you want and buy a car or Uber or whatever. So those amounts, you can live barely. So that full funding is something that you can survive on, but don't expect to have this chill, super easy life that I'm going to do whatever I want.
Yes.
It's going to be a really tight life. And, this is the same not only for international students, but also for American students. I had an assistantship in my first master's degree, and I got my tuition and housing, and then after that, I got $40 a month so I could buy shampoo and toothpaste. It's been a few years. This was back in 2000, 2002, and it was not at UMKC, but it was just, the assistantship is not a concept of it's not a full-time job. It's not supposed to be this really secure, income. It's just you haven't even finished your degree yet. So you're not going to be paid as if your degree were finished.
Yes.
So if you're mentally prepared for that, you can come in and you can know, I'm not going to have a lot of money.
Yes.
And you can be prepared. But if you're coming in expecting to have money, especially when you see your assistantship letter or even a scholarship letter with these amounts of money and you don't realize what it costs to live here. You're like, wow, that looks like a lot. I'm
Yeah.
going to save some and send it back to my family. It's not.
Nah, it's not.
You're not going to save
Yeah.
any and send it back to your family.
Yeah.
So just being prepared in advance for what those costs mean. And this is a little bit off topic, and you can bring me back a little bit later, but I
Yeah.
also want to say the I-20 costs.
Yeah, please.
I actually made this video explaining I-20 costs, and somehow I saved it wrong, and what I ended up sending out to students was the PowerPoint without any of my words explaining it. So the I-20 costs are not necessarily a good reflection of reality. So for
Right.
today, that's what I'm going to say. And just before you come, ask and find out what the I-20 costs mean in comparison to what it feels like living here. I think those are important questions to ask before you get here.
Yes.
It's a little complicated.
Yes.
So we're not going to talk about it today, but just make sure you ask the questions about how does the I-20 amounts really compare with real life before you get here.
And that's actually a great suggestion for one video of mine. So basically, I had the same experience, right? So there was a lot of amount on I-20 compared to my personal expenses. Monthly expenses were a little bit lower compared to whatever is provided on I-20. So I think it is better for me to do a video about it and then like maybe try to help people on how to estimate. Yeah.
Talk to me before you make that video.
Okay, that sounds good. Yeah.
So we were talking about assistantships, and I know I got off track, and I don't know if I answered whatever your last question was.
So yeah, so basically, I think you answered, but the essence of it is basically for bachelor's or master's.
Oh,
you're
full
not gonna.
funding. Okay,
Yeah.
let's go back to the full funding, and also
The affiliated.
another word about assistantships as well. I want to get back to both of these.
Sure.
So for the full funding, not at UMKC unless some doctoral students. One thing there's a misconception about is that all doctoral students will have an assistantship in full funding, and that's not true at UMKC. You have to, if you want an assistantship and you have no connections, you can go into the list of professors in your field, see their areas of research and expertise, and find something that you're interested in and
Right.
communicate with them directly. If a professor doesn't answer you, it might be because they're getting dozens
of emails.
of emails requesting assistantships, and if they're not interested in you, they might not reply, or if their assistantships are already filled up, they might not reply.
Right.
So if you follow up a couple of times and there's no reply, just let that one go. And emailing somebody else, like this happens a lot, they'll email me and they'll say, Professor so-and-so didn't reply to me. There's nothing I can do. It's not helpful to email me because I can't go to that professor and ask them to reply to you or to give you an assistantship.
Yes.
And again, it's not only about qualifications, it's about did they already give away their assistantships before you contacted them.
Okay. Yeah.
Right?
Available.
So you could be very qualified and not get an assistantship because of the timing, or because that professor doesn't need any new assistance at this time. So it's not necessarily, qualifications is a big deal, but timing is also another big deal. So as far as following up on emails in general, during the application process, if you're talking to a staff department, following up after 7 to 10 days is appropriate. Following up the next day is not.
Yes.
And when you're talking about professors, I would say waiting a little bit longer. So at least 2 weeks or 3 weeks. And after you've emailed a professor 2 or 3 times, if they're not getting back with you,
Probably means that
just
it's already filled.
try somebody else. Try
Yes.
a different professor. Button on there that's scholarships. It's one of our 4 big buttons because we know this is really important to our students.
Going on in my channel right now, which is transfer for bachelors. So
School of Computing and Engineering has thousands of Indian students, and we have the number of students to be confident in